Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtotartha Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajakacharya Ashtotartha Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavanda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktabinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriyet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayesha Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 15th day of August 2025 in San Diego, San Diego, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace HG Bhakti Swami Prabhupada. And we are in Canto 8, Withdrawal of the Cosmic Creations, Chapter 20, Bali Maharaj Surrenders the Universe, and we'll be reading texts 12 and 13. So I'm going to read 12 myself, and then we'll chant 13 together. Yadyap asava dharmena mam buddhiyadanagasam tatapyenam nihim sasishye bhitam brahmatanum rupum. This is Bali Maharaj speaking. Although he, Vamana, is Vishnu himself, out of fear he has covered himself in the form of a Brahman to come to me begging. Under the circumstances, because he has assumed the form of a Brahman, even if he irreligiously arrests me or even kills me, I shall not retaliate, although he is my enemy. Purport. If Lord Vishnu, as he is, had come to Bali Maharaj and asked him to do something, Bali Maharaj certainly would not have refused his request. But to enjoy a little humor between himself and his devotee, the Lord covered himself or disguised himself as a Brahmana brahmachari, and thus came to Bali Maharaj to beg for only 3 feet of land. Text 13. Esha va uttama shloko na jahasati yad yashaha hatva mainam harid yudhe shahita nihito maya esha uttama shloko na jahasati yan yashaha hatva mainam hari yudhe shahita nihito maya Esava uttama shloko najihasati yanyashaha hatva mainam hari yudhe shahita nihito maya Esava uttama shloko najihasati yanyashaha hatva mainam hari yudhe shahita nihito maya. Shahita nihito maya Esava uttama shloko najihasati yanyashaha hatva mainam hari yudhe shahita nihito maya Esava uttama shloko najihasati yanyashaha hatva mainam hari yudhe shahita nihito maya Esava uttama shloko najihasati yanyashaha hatva mainam hari yudhe shahita nihito maya. Kandamanika. Esava uttama shloko nadihasati yanyashaha hatva mainam hari yudhe shahita nihito maya. Ladies. Esava uttama shloko nadihasati yanyashaha hatva mainam hari yudhe Shahita nihito maya. No? Eshava uttama shloko. Nadihasati yadyashaha. Hadva mainam hare judhe. Shahita nihito maya. Anyone online? Guess not. Eshaha. This brahmachari. Va. Either. Uttama shlokaha. Is Lord Vishnu, who is worshipped by Vedic prayers. Na. Not. Jihasati. Desires to give up. Yat. Because. Yashaha. Perpetual fame. Hatva. After killing. Ma. Me. Enam. All this land. Harit. Will take away. Yudhe. In the fight. Shayita. Will lie down. Nihitaha. Being killed. Maya. By me. Okay. Translation. If this is Bali speaking, if this Brahman really is Lord Vishnu, who is worshipped by Vedic hymns, he would never give up his widespread reputation. Either he would lie down having been killed by me, or he would kill me in a fight. Purport. Bali Maharaj's statement that Vishnu would lie down having been killed is not the direct meaning, for Vishnu cannot be killed by anyone. Lord Vishnu can kill everyone, but he cannot be killed. Thus, the real meaning of the words lie down is that Lord Vishnu would reside within the core of Bali Maharaj's heart. Lord Vishnu is defeated by a devotee through devotional service. Otherwise, no one can defeat Lord Vishnu. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, there's some surprising statements here from Bali. In the first verse we read, text 12, although he is Vishnu himself, out of fear he has covered himself in the form of a Brahman to come to me begging. And then under the circumstance, because he has assumed the form of a Brahman, even if he irreligiously arrests me or even kills me, I shall not retaliate, although he is my enemy. So, out of fear. Yeah, Vishnu has come out of fear. So Bali is he's still like in between his two identities, right? As a demon, which is rapidly weakening. Obviously, he gave this charity. But also he has this misconception of this Vishnu here. Out of fear, he's covered himself out of fear. So in other words, it's just he's off a little bit. But everything will be resolved when he in the next verse or two, he actually gives the charity, and Vamana Dev expands and as a universal form, and then he kicks the hole in the universe, and obviously he's not afraid of anything. And so Bali is then exalted because he knew, according to the foretelling of Shukracharya, that this is indeed Vishnu and that he will take everything. And Bali didn't care. He had, the fact that he was a Brahmin, and Bali was dedicated to the Brahmins, and he had offered this charity, then that was the critical thing. He had offered a charity, and he wasn't going to take it even if he wasn't a Brahmin. If he was, so it all gets resolved in the end. And I read something, I think, a week ago or so. Even Shukracharya, who's sort of like painted here as kind of beyond the pale a little bit, right? He also reforms, and in the end, he's also glorifying, the Lord, and that kind of resolves some of my puzzlement of Krishna identifying himself as Shukracharya in the 10th canto of 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. He doesn't use that name Shukracharya, but there's another name that makes clear in the purport. So one of the wonderments here is, and it happens too. I'm thinking of Bhishma Dev. Bhishma Dev is also one of the Mahajans, right? But what happens on the battlefield? I mean, he's also in a position that is not really natural for him, right? He loves the Pandavas. He's his grandfather figure. He saved them, and now he's on the other side. So Duryodhana challenges him. The worst thing for a Kshatriya is to be insulted and say, you're not really doing the best, you're not fighting hard enough, So he says, okay, I promise that I will kill all the Pandavas, unless Krishna breaks his promise and starts fighting on the battlefield. So he gives Duryodhana these 5 arrows, very empowered arrows. He showed them to him, and Duryodhana said, well, let me hold on to him, so nothing will happen to him. That was, he didn't realize Krishna knows everything. So Bhishma Dev gives him the arrows for protection. But Krishna knows that. And so he has, I think Yudhishthira go to ask and visit him, because it's this whole, Kshatriya code that as soon as the last conch shell is blown, sometimes they're blown together, like we heard here. I've yet to hear one where they're actually in tune, but it's okay. And so you can imagine all the conch shells blow, and then everybody puts down their weapons, and some they go visit each other, they have dinner together. It's just far out. So Duryodhana visits him after the fighting. Because, no, what happens is that Duryodhana has the arrows, and Krishna tells him about those arrows, because he knows. He says, unless you get these arrows, you're all going to be killed tomorrow. By Bhishma Dev, by Duryodhana with these empowered arrows. So Duryodhana goes, and here, the whole etiquette is that you greet even the enemy Kshatriyas as your friend. You invite them in and have dinner and whatever like that. He invites them in. And Duryodhana, I think following the etiquette, says, well, what do you want? You can have anything. If you want me to surrender the kingdom, I will at this time, without a fight. So I think it's Arjun. So Arjun said, no, we don't want to do that, but I want those 5 arrows. How did he know about the 5 arrows? Oh, Krishna. So he has to give them to him, because that's the etiquette. So then when it comes time for, Bhishma Dev he had promised that either Krishna will break his promise or I will kill Arjun today. So sure enough, Arjun's in trouble. The chariot is broken and he's very vulnerable. And so Krishna has to break his promise. He jumps out of the chariot, grabs one of the wheels, which becomes his chakra, and he starts running toward Bhishma Dev, and Bhishma says, come and get me, And he was shooting arrows at Krishna. Apparently there was some injury there, which Krishna liked. And Krishna says, hey, if you keep shooting those arrows at Arjun, you're dead. So Bhishma Dev was, let's take me. But he stopped fighting. So this is, a similar thing. They're changing roles, but ultimately it all turns out, for the best, meaning that Krishna wins, right? Here, Vamanadev is able to, get this gift. He finally gives the gift. Here's the charity. Take the 3 steps of land, and boom, he as we read, he expands into the universal form, and he kicks, a hole in the universe, and he covers everything. And then, of course, he wants to know, where am I going to put my last step? So it's right on my head. So Bali, he shows his ultimate real nature, which is a great devotee, a descendant of Prahlad Maharaj. So that'll be coming up. But here we have some interesting verses. In 12, although he is Vishnu himself, out of fear he's covered himself in the form of a Brahman to come to me begging. Now I don't know if Bali really believes that or not. But he's in his role as a demon who's always an enemy of the Lord. He covers himself. But because he's a Brahman, okay, even though he may be the Lord and may be Brahman, but either one, because he assumed the form of a Brahman, even if he arrests me or kills me, I shall not retaliate, although he's my enemy. So is he his enemy or is he a devotee? is he your friend as a devotee? So he's still like in between. And what happens, of course, is that he gives a charity. He's arrested and taken down to Rasatala, and he becomes the king of Rasatala. And Vamana takes the role of his doorman. This is far out. That's what he wants to do. He does it for many, many years. But then in the next Manvantara, as I mentioned before, Bali becomes Indra. So there's all of these identities, and the main thing is that the power, the power of Prahlad Maharaj's devotion, and he showed himself. Here he is, this delicate little boy. Maybe some of you have seen the movie already. There's this wonderful movie about Lord Nrsimhadev and Prahlad. I saw the trailer on YouTube. It's incredible. And Prahlad was just, he was so surrendered to the Lord, so absorbed in the thought of Krishna, that he had no fear, he had no trepidation, and he was tormented, he was thrown off the cliff, he was boiled in oil, all of these different things. And he just tolerated it, he was given the power to tolerate it by Krishna. And in the end, Hiranyakashipu had to throw up his hands. We can't kill him. At least at that time, So then comes Prahlad, and he teaches his friends, and the whole thing, and finally Hiranyakashipu is slain. So this is the power of the devotion, the faith in the Lord. It's like whatever happens. There's that verse, Tatte nukampam susamikshramano bhunjana evabnukatam vipakam. This is a really key verse, because what it means is that the devotee, when something happens, whether positive or negative, he sees it as the mercy of the Lord. You see? If something positive happens, and suddenly, like I remember, in the early days, Prabhupada was with us, they were trying to do the London Rath Yatra. And Mahavishnu Maharaj, the original English Maharaj, he had a inheritance. And so he gave the whole inheritance for the putting on of the festival, which was important. There's so many things, you have to. And they told Prabhupada, that's, oh yes, he has very nicely used his money, So this is the way he sees, I've got this inheritance, this must be, Krishna's so kind to me, and let me use it for his service. And then negative things happen. You have an accident, I remember I seriously sprained my ankle. This was this is in 2019, it was before the pandemic. It was just when Rajendra Nandana Prabhu was leaving, and because he lived on an upper floor, I couldn't hardly walk, what to speak of climb stairs. So I was not even coming to the temple for several days, so I couldn't visit him, unfortunately, that time. I did talk to him on the phone. But I said, it was my own stupidity, I got that. But I was not thinking, what is this? I'm chanting my rounds every day. I've been coming for 30, 40 years to the temple, and now I get this? No. That's a sign of kind of very weak devotion. Probably told us a story, or maybe he was told by one of his godbrothers, during the war in Germany. The last stage of the war was just gruesome for everybody. And in Germany, if you were a male, maybe over 15 and under 100, and they drafted you. That's what they were for most soldiers. So you had old men going out, and everything, and all of the ladies, the wives, who were also mothers and sisters, they went to the church, very fervently prayed, Lutherans undoubtedly, for the return of their sons and husbands, whatever, And very few of them came back. I mean, practically none of them came back unscathed. If they got back, they were seriously injured, So many of them became atheists, because all their lives they were going to church, and then they prayed like anything, please. But it wasn't in the, their karma was that this was going to happen to them, and so they gave up their devotion. But this verse, Tatte nukampam susamikshramano, is meant to instruct real Vaishnavas against that attitude. The actual attitude is that whatever happens, you see it as the blessing of the Lord. If something positive happens, you said, Krishna's giving me more opportunity to serve, more. And if something negative happens, you said, it could have been so much worse. I remember before I joined, I had no idea of this verse, but devotees who had been in the movement a while, they understood the mood. And if we all had to do a stint in the kitchen. We had about 80 devotees to feed every day, so there was a lot of work to be done. So you're chopping this vegetable, that vegetable, and inevitably you get some cuts or something. That's why we have a first aid kit out here, right? Something may happen. So, and we were taught that, this is just a little karma. It could have been so much worse. You could have cut off a whole finger, but you just got a cut, like that. So that understanding, what's the result of it, if you really embrace that verse, is that your attitude toward Krishna always remains positive. You see? In other words, if something bad happens, you said, it could have been so much worse. Thank you, Krishna, for limiting it. And if it's something good, you say, thank you, Krishna, you're giving me more opportunity to serve. You see? So in either case. And Krishna says to Yudhishthira, I think it's on the Battle of Kurukshetra, not when they visited there, for the eclipse of the sun. I think it's there, but it's the latter part of the 10th canto. He says, Yasyaham nagunname harishe tadjanang shanai. To those who I show my real mercy, he says, I gradually take away all their wealth. Or maybe if it's really special mercy, it suddenly takes away all your wealth, And then what happens? I mean, the faithless, or those with komala shraddha is very delicate faith that can be easily broken. They say, this is what I get for being a devotee, Thanks a lot, No. They see, the result of that, Krishna says, is that your family will no longer want to be, have anything to do with you. Now you're poverty-stricken. So in other words, you get thrown out and you're completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord, day to day, moment to moment. You see? So Prabhupada identified with that verse. You know how for many years he was doing his business, but he was also helping as much as he could with the preaching of the Gaudiya Math. He had his business going. But at a certain point, because he wasn't paying that much attention to the business, there was a theft in the business and wasn't going well at all and things like that, And finally he saw, and then the thing all happened with his wife sold all his Bhagavatams to buy tea biscuits and this and that. So he thought it was his time. I think he was mid-50s at that time, and then a few years later he took sannyas, actually. So he remembered this verse. When this, he cited this verse as this is what happened in my own life, that Krishna showed great mercy to me and took away my material underpinnings, that I was relying on. So I can only rely on Krishna. And that's exactly what we see from Prahlad and from Bali. Prahlad was born that way, He was, and so fearless. From the very beginning, when his father, what did you learn today, my son? He was smelling his head, and expecting to hear, I heard this, about how you have to, kill your enemies and make your friends, all this political stuff. No, he said, Tat Saramanya Sudavari Hadehinam Sadasamud Vignadiyam Sadgrahat Hitvatma Patam Griyamandakupam Vanam Gadoyad Hanamashriyeta. So remember the context. His brother, what was Hiranyakashipu's brother's name? Hiranyaksha, which means? Who can say? Always looking for gold. In fact, I think Prabhupada said that he mined so much gold that the whole earth became unbalanced, and that's why it fell into the... And his brother's name? Also Hiranyakashipu. Also, want more gold and soft bedding. And the bed companion, Prabhupada says in a lecture. I didn't make it up. Anyway, so that's the environment he's born into, right? It's demonic. But he's completely fixed, having been trained up by Narada, So he says to his father, which, it could have been a death sentence, because he suddenly outs himself as a devotee in the middle of the... So he says, the best thing, father, sadhu. Sadhu can mean good, very good, as well as sadhu. Tat sadhu mande. My opinion, the best thing I learned, father, but probably he didn't call him father, he called him the best of the demons, Asuyabhaya. Best for whom? For dehinam, for the embodied soul. In other words, for all of us. Tat sadhu asudavarya dehinam sada samudvigna diyam. Who are always disturbed in mind, ordinary people, for the vast number of conditioned souls who are disturbed in mind because, why? Asadgrahat. Because they're taking shelter of the impermanent, beginning with this body, identifying with it, and so many other things, the money, the things. I give the example of the boat. You know, you get a boat, you make sure it's seaworthy, and then you go out, you want to have fun on the thing, you know. But that boat, at any time, you know, you can hit something or spring a leak, whatever. So that's the nature of our so-called shelters in the material world. They're all fallible. There's really no material shelter. Eventually the whole body, you know, goes. So for those living entities, vast mass of the conditioned souls who are always in great anxiety, here's what they should do. Hit vatmapatam griyamanda kupam. They should give up materialistic household life. That's the griham anda kupam. Anda means a blind well, you see. So what should they do? Vanam gato, go to the forest, and it's understood by the commentators, this means Vrindavan. Go to Vrindavan. Vanam gato yad haramashriyeta. Take shelter of Hari. Those words struck Hiranyakashipu like a whip, you know, because he regards Hari, who killed his brother, as his archenemy. He's always looking for ways on when I can kill him, you know. So now he's telling me, my son is telling me to go take shelter of him? What is this? Where did he learn this nonsense? And he looks over at Shanda in America. The teachers, what are you teaching him? We didn't teach him that. We don't know where he got it. So this is Prahlad, and he keeps doing it again and again. Whenever his father, you know, what do you learn today? Oh, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smara. The 9 process of devotional service to Vishnu, you know. So finally it gets to be too much for Hiranyakashipu. He tells his henchmen, vicious, you know, to kill him. They can't kill him. He's protected by Vishnu. Throw him off a cliff. They crush him under the under the elephants. I'm sure this is all portrayed in that movie. Boiled in oil, you know, whatever way they tried. He was just so absorbed in 100% samadhi, thinking of Vishnu's lotus feet, that he was protected. Just like Haridas Thakur, he didn't feel any pain either, you know. So this is the line that Bali comes in, but because it's still a demonic line, he takes the role of a demon. He conquers the demigods. They're exited, you know, evicted from their planets, which is what Aditi was so disturbed that she can't even see her children anymore. So she performs the Paya Vrata, and she gets the darshan of Narayan, who appears as her son in the form of this Vamana Dev. And you remember his whole strategy, rather than just go and conquer the demons and take it back, is he had to break their faith in the Brahmins. The whole thing is that they were surrendered to Shukracharya. It was in the role of a Brahmin. So this is how he did it. He convinced Bali to give these 3 steps of land, even though his spiritual master said, don't do it because they'll take everything. So it's a wonderful kind of pastime. You can see how, and here, you know, he's, although he's Vishnu himself, out of fear, he has covered himself in the form of a Brahmin. I don't know if he really believes that or not. If this Brahmin is really Lord Vishnu, who is worshipped by Vedic hymns, he would never give up his widespread reputation. Either he would lie down having been killed by me, or he would kill me in a fight. But, so that's the next verse. I don't think that we read that one yet. Yeah, we did read 12:13. So, Prabhupada said this is not the direct meaning, but Vishnu cannot be killed. That Vishnu would reside within the core of Balamarja's heart. Lord Vishnu is defeated by a devotee through devotional service. Otherwise, no one can defeat Lord Vishnu. So, any discussion on these points? This is one of the, you know, like so many amazing stories in the Bhagavatam, and this is one of them. Okay. Can we get a mic for Daniel?
I was just curious what verse, if you cited the verse from the Bhagavatam that you were...
Tattenukamba?
Whatever happens, whether it's positive
or
negative, it's Krishna's mercy.
Okay. You know, I don't have the reference. I don't usually memorize that reference. I think it's in the 10th canto. I think it's in chapter 14 of the 10th canto, but it's not part of Brahma's prayers, I don't think. But? Tatte Nukampa. See if we can find it first. Tatte. It's quoted all over the place. 10:14:8. Okay. And here's the official translation. This is Brahma's prayers. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. And that's Prabhupada's translation, because he quoted it so often in purports. And then he focuses on this word diabak, which is the last words in the verse. This means you become a rightful heir. All you have to do is stay alive. As Prabhupada explains, you stay alive in Krishna consciousness, and with this attitude, accepting whatever comes as Krishna's mercy, and you'll go back to guide it. It'll be your rightful claim. Yeah, it's a very important verse. Yeah, I remember Bhadri Narayan Maharaj often quotes this, and this is not Prabhupada's purport, but it's a good, really nice purport. Okay, just as one cannot approach the sun without becoming fire, one can't approach the Supreme Pure, Krishna, without undergoing a rigid purificatory process, which may appear like suffering, but which is in fact a curative treatment administered by the personal hand of the Lord. So I remember, I think when Maharaj, became ill with this diabetes, serious diabetes, he was inspired by this verse to see, this is Krishna's mercy. It's not. Sometimes it's very hard to see that and accept it, but that's what it means to. Then you're sure going back to guide it. Okay. Any other discussion or point? Yes, on the ladies' side.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hi,
Thank you. Thank you for the enlightening class. I don't know much about Bali Maharaj past activities before this past time with Vaman Dev. So I was wondering, Shukracharya is the guru, and apparently the guru Shukracharya in this pastime acts very inimical towards Krishna and towards Vamandev, towards Lord Vishnu. And then Bali Maharaj is his disciple, or I'm just feeling this contradiction. You have a disciple, you have a guru who is inimical to Lord Vishnu, and suddenly you see Bali Maharaj practically acting as a pure devotee, even when Shukracharya is telling him, "Don't do that."
Yeah.
So
this is the whole drama of it. Is that Bali's success is to disobey the orders of his spiritual master in this case, because he's telling him not to offer charity to Lord Vishnu.
Yeah, so the message is also, if a guru is not a devotee of Lord Vishnu, he should be rejected.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's one of the lessons here. But the other twist, which I pointed out several times already. If you read the Bhagavad Gita, 10th chapter, where Krishna says, "Mrityu sarva haraschaham," I come as death at the end, and he identifies with so many things. Of the bodies of water, I'm the ocean, and of the aquatics, I'm the shark, like that. There's a whole list. Mm-hmm. And one of them is of kavis, of learned Brahmins, women. I am Ushana. Ushana is another name for Shukracharya. And Krishna identifies with the Shukracharya. How does that work out?
Yes.
And the Shukracharya also sees the light later on. I quoted something that he also worships Vishnu.
Yes.
He has a turn, So it makes some sense, but it's interesting that this pastime is all a festival of changing identities, you know, of like letting your disguise go. Like Baliban, he's really a great devotee, but he was a leader of the demons, and they conquered the demigods, you know.
Exactly,
you know?
yeah.
Because they were respectful to the Brahmins. This is when Vamanadeva appears. I think when he appears as Narayan, and he tells them, "Well, I'm gonna." The problem is that the demons have become powerful because they showed great respect to the Brahmins, especially Shukracharya. They become empowered that way. See, so he has to break that respect for the Brahmins, and this is how he does it.
Yes.
Because the main leader there is Bali, and if he rejects Shukracharya, then that means that, you know, they don't have the protection and the empowerment of serving the Brahmin anymore. And so this is the way that you know, Vamana appears as a very small Brahmin boy, and he has some charity, and Bali says, "Take whatever you want. I can offer you an island, meaning a planet." You know, but he says, no, as a Brahmin, I should be very satisfied with just a little, you know. So I just said 3 steps of land is enough. And so, you know, when he finally says, okay. Shukracharya says, well, don't do that, because it's actually God. He'll take everything, you know. And then what he's not saying, but what he's really worried about, what'll I live on? If you become a pauper, what'll I live on?
Yes.
You know. So there's this whole thing, and so this is the moment of truth for Bali.
Yeah.
Is he going to reject his spiritual master in order to follow the Dharma of offering Vishnu, you know, charity, whatever he wants, or is he going to cave? So he did that, and he rejected his spiritual master, thus coming out from under the protection of the Brahminical power. Yeah. And that's why he says, now here's another Brahmin that he takes shelter. So that's the idea.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. I also want to understand, see if we take the example of Prahlad Maharaj. From very young age, he was such a pure devotee and completely surrendered to Krishna, to Lord Krishna.
Yeah.
However, Bali Maharaj does not see, I don't know anything about his previous activities, his devotion towards Lord Vishnu. So when this pastime is happening, did he had a change of heart at that time, or was he a pure devotee from the before that? Or he did that towards Lord Vishnu just to honor his word?
You know, it's a fact that, as far as I know, we don't really know much about Bali from the Bhagavatam, you know, what his training was. But you have to remember, you know, because he's a descendant of Prahlad, therefore he has a special relationship with Vishnu. I always point out again the Banasura. You remember Banasura? Many arms, 1,000 arms. He was a demon. Yeah. He was the father of Usha, and then Aniruddha comes. You know, and so eventually there's a fight. Banasura, you know, fights with Vishnu, but he doesn't kill him. You know, he's Asura after all, but he doesn't kill him because he's a descendant of Prahlad. Yeah. Cuts off 996 of his 1,000 arms, so he's still got 4 arms. And then Banasura surrenders at that point, you know, and he offers, okay, Usha, you go on the chariot with Aniruddha, bye, you know. Yeah. So, but he's not killed for that. So it's a much more dramatic thing. Here, Bali actually becomes, you know, devotee, taking great risk, and he becomes a Mahajan. In other words, he doesn't go back. You know, he's not a demon anymore at all. No. And even in the demonic mood, you can see he was still very respectful to the Brahmins, you know, and the Vaishnavas and Vishnu. So he has this dual identity, but now he's going to be 100% devotee, you know. And he becomes Indra in the next mantra. Yeah. You know.
And also the contradiction of Prahlad Maharaj being such a pure devotee and having this pastime with Lord Nrsimhadev, and down the line, Bali Maharaj, Shukracharya end up being their guru, who is against Lord Vishnu. There's a lot of conversion back and forth, you know.
the main point is that Prahlad's influence. He was such an ideal devotee, super, devotee. But even his descendants coming down, they're also special. And in Bali's case, he was so, he went 100% on the devotee side at all risk, and he got arrested, and humiliated in one sense, sent down to the lower planets. Yeah. But there's a catch, because Vamana became his doorman while he was down there. So it's interesting.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Just to add something very quickly, I also learned that when Vamandev was trying to arrest Bali Maharaj, next to Bali Maharaj was her sister Ratnamala, and first when she saw Vamandev, she was extremely attracted and felt motherly affection towards Vamandev, and she just felt in her heart that I wish I would breastfeed such a beautiful baby. And the next moment when when Vamandev tried to arrest Bali Maharaj, she became angry at Vamandev, and she said that such a person, a boy, I would rather smear poison on my breast and give it to him. So then in the next life
Putana.
he becomes,
Who also turns around and gets a position in the Goloka.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. All right, anyone else? Kunda, you got a mic there.
Well, I also echo the confusion that Mataji is saying. I still don't, even after going through this pastime multiple times, it just doesn't, I can't really get it to add up in my head. How we say, it all makes sense with Prahlad. We say, yes, he's a demon and that he's born in a demon family and he's trained as a demon, but he's a pure devotee. And that adds up because you see how he was educated as a pure devotee, how he was educated in pure devotion. And we see how he acts like that. So even though he's in the family of devotees, he never acts, or demons, he never acts like a demon. He doesn't go along with it. He doesn't actually take the reins of any, of other demons and so on. But with Bali, it doesn't, unless there's like, maybe I'm just also wondering like what context am I missing or what pastimes am I missing where we see how this makes sense. If we call Bali a devotee in the family of demons and we say, well, he is a devotee, but he was put in the position of a demon, and therefore he acts like a demon. But we think, well, any other devotee, we wouldn't expect that for them. We would expect that if you're a devotee, you may be born in a family, but you don't go along with those things. And so it's just like Prahlad. And so when we see that Bali is not only going along with demons, he's the king of the demons. And then like in the past, in the pastimes of Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, Ravana, you see how nasty these demons are. And then like the horrible things they do, and he's heading them, and he's letting them do those things, and then like actually leading them and doing these things, and attacking the demigods who are keeping, harmony in the universe for all the living entities. And so he's condoning all of the suffering and taking part in it, and like leading the pack, all of the suffering. And so it seems a bit different to say he's a devotee, but he's born in a position, so he's just carrying out the position of a demon, because that's kind of where he found himself in. But any other devotee, if they're found in like in the family of butchers or something, we would expect, we'd say that that might be your family, but cut it out. You're a devotee now. So you don't just get a free pass because you're born in that family. Yeah. So with Bali, so she's asking, it seems, that here, just like recently in one of the purports, Srila Prabhupada saying, just yesterday, how Prahlad educated Bali, and that's why Bali has this understanding. That's why he can discriminate and see, and then do the education. He can reject his guru and if he didn't have that education, he wouldn't be able to discern, what to do. Here's the Lord. Here's Vishnu. Here's my guru. But because he was educated by Prahlad, he knew what was what, and therefore he rejected his guru in the situation. But if he was educated by Prahlad, why would he even lead a life up to this point where he's leading the demons? So I'm just wondering where else.
But I mean, being educated by Prahlad. Is that, do we read that in the Bhagavatam?
Prabhupada says that because he was educated by his grandfather Prahlad. Yesterday's Prabhupada.
Oh, it is? Oh, okay.
Prabhupada saying because he was educated by his grandfather Prahlad, he could, he knew what was what, and therefore when this situation came up, he saw, yes, he could see what was what, and he rejects his guru and he accepts the Lord as Vamanadev. So where is this history?
Maybe in another Purana.
May I make a comment?
Okay, go ahead, Maitreya. Okay, let Balaram speak.
There's an example of another famous demon we just read about, Vitrasura, who's a pure devotee, and yet he acted in a very, what we would say, very demoniacally. He smashed demigods between his toes. So we have to remember this is all divine Leela, and the souls are cast into particular roles by the Supreme Controller, and they play those roles. And I'm glad you found that place in the purport where Prabhupada mentioned that Bali was educated by his grandfather. I've read the Bhagavatam 50 times, and somehow I missed that. So there is a whole pastime. There's a whole back life to Bali that we don't know about yet, because it's not a Bhagavatam, but that definitely points in that direction. He had association with the spotless devotee of Krishna, and it had its effect.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if somewhere in this whole pastime, because there's numerous verses, there's numerous purports, and so on. I'm just wondering if somewhere in this whole pastime, if there's some type of, because we can't underestimate the power of, like, people would see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, people would see Krishna. Not everyone, but there's a large number of people who would see them, and there'd be a change. In their consciousness. They were demons, and then there's a change. Or just like you have the four Kumaras, they saw Vishnu, or they specifically smelled the Tulsi, and then there's a change. So is there something like that with Bali, which, okay, he's the king of the demons and everything, but then Vamanadev appears, and there's like I just don't remember explicitly some verse or something, but that would make sense.
Well, it'll be. I can research because I have all the commentaries, Vishwanath and the others, and I have a feeling it'll probably be in some other Purana. You'll find the account because there's a lot of parallels.
The other example we could compare it to perhaps is with the Jamila. We see that at the end, so he was educated as a devotee. He practiced devotional service, and then he followed the life of a demon, or whatever, at least a non-devotee. Followed the life of a non-devotee. And then, yes, at a particular time, then it's reawakened, So kind of like you're saying, okay, Jamali has this past, we can refer to, well, this happened because he was educated as a devotee, and therefore he had this in his heart, and he had this discernment. And you say, well, it doesn't look like it. It's like, okay, because it was covered over, like a Jamali was covered over, and he was lost in illusion for decades. And then at this point, it was awakened. Of course, it's very different in the case of why it was awakened in a Jamila, or how it was awakened, but versus this. But it seems like the only way to know would be if there was some kind of supplementary Purana or some other, But do we even hear of, there's the Nrsimha Purana, but do we even hear of what Purana or other texts would even have more details about Bali? I never see anything referenced in the Bali pastime by, another Purana. Oh, yeah.
What is that?
Mostly would just be Acharya's comment.
Yeah,
Mostly
sure.
Acharyas would just comment, you're saying.
But, it was Vishwanath. It's written extensive commentary, and so let me see if I can find something about it. Otherwise, I'll just ask, what is it, ChatGPT?
Wouldn't trust ChatGPT.
No. Well, I'll make an effort to find out Bali's childhood. What happened? Okay, online, anything? Further, anything further? Oh, Ananda.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I think the other day I was discussing with either Daniel or Govardhan Prabhu that is the family of Prahlad Maharaj or the lineage of Bali Maharaj has seen the highest number of Vishnu avatars. Like we were just counting the other day, Hiranyaksha saw Varadev, Hiranyakashipu and Prahlad Maharaj saw Narsimhadev, Bali Maharaj saw Vaman Dev, and then Vanasura saw Krishna.
Who?
Vanasura saw Krishna. So I was just wondering if it is in terms of count, the same family has seen highest number of Vishnu avatars.
I wouldn't want to hazard a guess. guess. But that's an interesting point. Yeah. All right, let us proceed to the next stage. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol.